The last time Harrison Reed saw Clara Knight, they were both 12 years old, sitting on the curb outside the corner store in their tiny hometown, sharing a melted ice cream sandwich and laughing until their stomachs hurt. 20 years had passed since that summer day when her family packed up and moved 3 states away without much warning, and he never thought he would see her again. But there she was, standing in the rain outside a coffee shop in downtown Seattle, her dark hair plastered to her face as she fumbled with a broken umbrella that had clearly given up the fight. Harrison had just finished a meeting with investors for his real estate development company, the firm that had made him his first million at 28 and continued growing until he found himself at 32 with more money than he knew what to do with. He was heading to his car when he saw her, and something made him stop dead in his tracks. Clara. The name came out before he could think twice. She looked up, confusion crossing her features before recognition dawned in those hazel eyes he remembered so well. Harrison. Oh my God, Harrison Reed. He jogged over, holding his coat over both their heads. What are you doing standing in this downpour? My umbrella broke, and I was trying to decide if I should just make a run for the bus stop or wait it out. She laughed, and the sound transported him back 20 years in an instant. I cannot believe this. What are the odds? Pretty slim, I would say. He studied her face, seeing the girl he knew in the woman before him. She had the same smile, the same way of tilting her head when she was amused. Come on, my car is right here. At least let me give you a ride somewhere dry. Clara hesitated for only a moment before nodding. They ran together to his car, a sleek black sedan that he tried not to think too much about as they climbed inside. He cranked up the heat immediately. So, she said, wringing out her hair. Harrison Reed, still living in Washington. I moved to Seattle for college and never left, started a business here. He pulled out into traffic. Where am I taking you? I am staying at a hotel on 5th Avenue, the Meridian. He knew the place. Nice hotel, but nothing extravagant. What brings you to Seattle? I am actually moving here. I just accepted a position as head of pediatrics at Seattle General Hospital. Pride colored her voice, and it should have. That was impressive. Dr. Knight. I like the sound of that. Dr. Knight, who is currently soaking wet and probably looks like a drowned cat, she said with a self-deprecating laugh. What about you? What business are you in? Real estate development. Commercial properties, mostly. He kept it vague, not wanting to sound like he was bragging. They talked the entire 15-minute drive, catching up on the broad strokes of the past 2 decades. Clara had gone to medical school, done her residency in Boston, and spent the last 5 years working in pediatric medicine. Her parents had divorced when she was 16, her mother had remarried, and she had a half-sister she adored. Harrison told her about his own family. His father had passed away 8 years ago, but his mother was still in their hometown, retired and happy. His younger brother was a teacher in Portland. When they pulled up to the hotel, Harrison found himself not wanting the conversation to end. Listen, I know this is sudden, but would you want to grab dinner sometime? I mean, you are new in town, and I actually know some decent places to eat. Clara's smile was warm. I would really like that. Let me give you my number. They exchanged phones, and as Harrison drove away, he could not stop replaying the past hour in his mind. Clara Knight. After all these years, 3 days later they met at an Italian restaurant in Capitol Hill. Harrison arrived early, nervous in a way he had not been in years. He had built a company from nothing, negotiated million-dollar deals, and spoken at conferences in front of hundreds of people. But the thought of sitting across from Clara made his palms sweat. She walked in wearing a navy dress that was simple but elegant, her hair down around her shoulders. When she spotted him, her face lit up, and Harrison felt something shift in his chest. "Sorry I am a few minutes late," she said as she sat down. "I am still getting used to the traffic here." "You are right on time." He poured her a glass of water. "How is the move going?" "Chaotic. I have been living out of suitcases while I apartment hunt. The hospital helped me find temporary housing, but I need to find something permanent." She picked up her menu. "It is harder than I thought it would be." "What are you looking for?" "Something with natural light, hopefully 2 bedrooms so I can have an office. Close to the hospital would be ideal, but I know that area is expensive." She shrugged. "I will figure it out." Harrison made a mental note. He owned several residential properties and knew the market inside and out. "I might be able to help with that, actually. I have connections." They ordered food and fell into conversation as naturally as if no time had passed at all. Clara told him about the patients she had already met at the hospital, her eyes shining when she talked about the kids. Harrison found himself sharing stories about his business, about the challenges of growth and managing teams. "You remember when we tried to start that lemonade stand?" Clara asked, laughing. "And we spent all our profits on candy. We were terrible business people." Harrison grinned. "Although I like to think I have improved since then. I would say a real estate development company is a step up from a lemonade stand." The evening stretched on, neither of them wanting it to end. They moved from the restaurant to a nearby bar, then walked along the waterfront despite the chill in the air. Harrison offered her his jacket, and Clara pulled it around her shoulders. "I miss this," she said quietly. "Having someone who knew me before everything got so complicated." "I know what you mean." And he did. In his world of business deals and networking events, genuine connection was rare. Everyone wanted something, or they knew him only as Harrison Reed, the successful developer. But Clara remembered him as the kid who climbed trees and caught fireflies and dreamed about what life would be like when they grew up. "I used to wonder what happened to you," Clara continued. "After we moved, I asked my mom so many times if we could go back and visit, but things were difficult with the divorce and we just never did." "I looked for you on social media over the years," Harrison admitted, "but I could never find you. I am pretty private online. Work thing mostly. Patient confidentiality and all that." She looked up at him. "I am really glad we ran into each other." "Me too." Over the next few weeks, they saw each other constantly. Harrison showed Clara around the city, took her to his favorite spots, and introduced her to the Seattle he had come to love. They had coffee before her shifts and late dinners after. He helped her apartment hunt, using his knowledge of the market to find her options she would not have seen otherwise. One Saturday, Harrison took her to see a condo in Queen Anne. The moment they walked in, he could see it was perfect. Floor-to-ceiling windows flooded the space with natural light. 2 bedrooms, hardwood floors, and a kitchen that opened into the living area. It was in her price range, and it was only 20 minutes from the hospital. "Harrison, this is amazing," Clara breathed, walking to the windows. The view overlooked the city, the Space Needle visible in the distance. "I had a feeling you would like it." He stood beside her, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. "How did you even find this listing?" "The owner is someone I have worked with before." When I told him what you were looking for, he mentioned this place was about to go on the market. What Harrison did not mention was that he had personally vouched for Clara, ensuring she would get first look. Clara turned to him, and there was something in her expression he could not quite read. "You have been so incredible through all of this. I do not know how I would have managed without you." "I like helping you," he said simply. And it was true. Spending time with Clara had become the best part of his days. She moved into the condo 3 weeks later, and Harrison took the day off to help. He arrived with coffee and breakfast sandwiches to find Clara already directing the movers, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. wearing jeans and an old college sweatshirt. "You did not have to do this," she said, but she was smiling as she took the coffee. "Where else would I be?" Harrison set down the food and rolled up his sleeves. "What do you need me to do?" They spent the day unpacking boxes, assembling furniture, and arranging her belongings. Harrison hung curtains while Clara organized her kitchen. They ordered pizza for lunch and ate sitting on the floor surrounded by half-empty boxes. "I forgot to ask," Clara said, wiping tomato sauce from her chin. "Are you seeing anyone?" "I realize we have been spending all this time together, and I never even thought to check if I was monopolizing time you should be spending with a girlfriend." Harrison's heart did an odd little flip. "No girlfriend. I dated someone about a year ago, but it did not work out. Work got in the way mostly." He paused. "What about you? Single?" "My last relationship ended about 6 months ago. He was a surgeon, and we just wanted different things." She looked down at her pizza. "He wanted someone who would be content being the supportive partner to his career. I wanted someone who saw my career as equally important. That is a pretty fundamental incompatibility." "Yeah." She met his eyes. "I am glad I figured it out before things got too serious." By evening, the condo was starting to look like a home. Clara's books lined the shelves, her art hung on the walls, and her furniture was arranged in a way that made the space feel warm and inviting. "I cannot thank you enough," Clara said as they stood in her living room, surveying their work. "You have thanked me about 50 times today." Harrison grabbed his jacket. "I should let you get settled." "Wait." Clara touched his arm. "Stay for one drink. I have wine, and I feel like we should christen the place properly." So Harrison stayed. They sat on her new couch, drinking wine and talking as the sun set over the city, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The conversation drifted from memories of their childhood to dreams for the future, and Harrison felt something he had not felt in a long time. He felt at home. "Do you ever think about what your 12-year-old self would say if they could see you now?" Clara asked, curling her legs under her. "Probably that I work too much and do not have enough fun." Harrison smiled. "What about you?" "I think she would be proud. We used to talk about what we wanted to be when we grew up, remember? I always said I wanted to help people. You are doing that. What did you want to be? I feel like it changed every week." "I think I said astronaut, professional baseball player, and zookeeper at various points." Harrison laughed. "Real estate developer was not on the list. How did you get into it?" "My dad, actually. He was a contractor, built houses. I used to help him on weekends when I was in high school." Harrison set down his wine glass. "He always said real estate was about more than just buildings. It was about creating spaces where people could live their lives, build their businesses, make memories. That stuck with me." "He would be proud of you too," Clara said softly. "I hope so." The moment felt weighted, significant. Clara was looking at him in a way that made Harrison's pulse quicken, but then she yawned, covering her mouth quickly. "Sorry, long day. I should go and let you rest." Harrison stood. Even though leaving was the last thing he wanted to do, Clara walked him to the door. "Same time next week." "I still need to find a good grocery store and figure out where to get my hair cut and about a million other things." "I will be here." As Harrison drove home, he had to acknowledge what he had been trying to ignore for weeks now. He was falling for Clara Knight. Maybe he had already fallen. The realization should have scared him. His life was complicated, his schedule packed, and he had convinced himself after his last relationship that he was better off focusing on work. But with Clara, everything felt easy, natural. Right. The problem was, he had no idea if she felt the same way. Harrison threw himself into work for the next week, trying to clear his schedule so he would have more time available. He had a major deal closing, a new property development that would be his biggest project yet. The stress of it should have consumed him, but all he could think about was Clara. They texted throughout the days. Good morning messages, funny stories from the hospital, pictures of things she found in the city. Harrison found himself smiling at his phone during meetings, distracted in a way that his assistant definitely noticed. "You seem different lately," Michelle said one afternoon, catching him off guard. "Different how? Happier? Less intense?" She tilted her head, studying him. "Is it a woman?" Harrison tried to deflect, but Michelle had worked for him for 5 years and could read him too well. "Just an old friend who moved to town." "An old friend who has you checking your phone every 5 minutes and actually leaving the office before 7. Michelle raised an eyebrow. "Sure." That Friday night, Harrison picked Clara up for what had become their weekly dinner. But this time, he had a plan. He had made reservations at Canley's, one of the best restaurants in the city. He wanted to tell her how he felt, wanted to see if this thing between them could be something more than friendship. Clara came down from her condo wearing a black dress that made Harrison forget how to form complete sentences for a solid 10 seconds. "Is this okay?" she asked, suddenly looking uncertain. "You said nice restaurant, but I was not sure how nice." "You look beautiful," Harrison managed. "Perfect." In the car, Clara was quieter than usual. Harrison wondered if she was nervous, if maybe she had sensed that tonight felt different. The restaurant was everything he had hoped. Elegant but not stuffy, with incredible views and food that was more art than meal. They were seated by the window, the city lights spread out before them. "Harrison, this place is incredible," Clara said, her eyes wide. "This must have cost a fortune to get reservations." He shrugged, uncomfortable. "I know the owner, he owed me a favor." That was not exactly true. Harrison had simply called and made a reservation like anyone else, but his name carried weight in certain circles. They ordered, and as they waited for their food, Clara leaned forward. "Can I ask you something? Anything? That day I saw you outside the coffee shop, you were coming from a meeting, right?" "Yeah, with some investors." "And you drive a really nice car and you knew how to get reservations here and you seem to know everyone in the city." She paused. "Your real estate company, it is successful." Really successful? It was not a question. Harrison set down his water glass. "Yes, how successful are we talking?" He could have downplayed it, but he found he did not want to lie to Clara. "I am worth about $40 million, give or take. The company does well." Clara sat back, processing this. "40 million. Does it matter? I do not know." She looked genuinely uncertain. "I just wish you had told me sooner." "Would it have changed anything?" "No, maybe. I do not know, Harrison." She ran a hand through her hair. "I have been thinking of you as my childhood friend, the kid I used to play with. And you are that person, but you are also someone who operates in a completely different world than I do." "I am the same person I was when we were 12, Harrison said firmly. "Money does not change that." "Doesn't it though? Your life, your responsibilities, the people you surround yourself with, that is all different than mine." The waiter arrived with their appetizers, and they both fell silent. Harrison's carefully planned evening was falling apart, and he did not know how to fix it. After the waiter left, Clara spoke again. "I am sorry. I am not trying to make this weird. It just surprised me, that is all. I did not tell you because I did not want money to be a thing between us," Harrison explained. "With most people I meet, that is all they see. The business, the success, what I can do for them. But with you, I was just Harrison. The kid you knew, I liked that." Clara's expression softened. "I get that, I do." She reached across the table and Harrison met her halfway, their fingers intertwining. "And for the record, you are still just Harrison to me. The money is just context, not who you are." The tension between them eased and dinner continued more smoothly. They talked about childhood memories, about the paths their lives had taken, about the strange luck that had brought them back together. Over dessert, Harrison decided to take the leap. "Clara, I need to tell you something." She looked up from her chocolate mousse, waiting. "These past few months have been the best I have had in years, and it is because of you." His heart was pounding, but he pushed forward. "You are not just my childhood friend anymore. Somewhere along the way, you became more than that. And I need to know if you feel it too, or if I am completely misreading this situation." Clara set down her spoon very carefully. For a long moment she said nothing, and Harrison felt his stomach drop. But then she smiled, and it was like the sun breaking through clouds. "You are not misreading anything," she said quietly. "I have been trying to figure out when we crossed the line from friendship into something else, but I think maybe there was never really a line. Maybe it was always heading here." Relief and joy flooded through Harrison in equal measure. "So what do we do about it? I think we see where this goes." Clara's hand was still in his. "I think we stop pretending this is just two old friends catching up and admit that this is something more." "I can do that." Harrison squeezed her hand. "I want to do that." They left the restaurant hand in hand, and Harrison drove Clara home through the quiet city streets. When they reached her building, he walked her up to her door like a teenager on a first date. "Thank you for tonight," Clara said, unlocking her door. "For dinner, for being honest, for everything." "Can I see you tomorrow?" Harrison asked. "You can see me right now if you want." Clara pulled him inside her apartment, and then she was kissing him, and Harrison forgot about everything else. They took things slow after that night, building their relationship day by day. Harrison cut back his hours at work, delegating more to his team so he could spend time with Clara. They had breakfast together before her morning shifts, and he picked her up after evening rounds. They spent weekends exploring the city, cooking dinner in her apartment, and learning each other in ways that went beyond childhood memories. Clara met his mother 2 months into their relationship. Harrison drove them down to his hometown, nervous in a way that made Clara laugh. "Your mother is going to love me," she assured him. "I already have the advantage of being someone she remembers from when you were kids." She was right. His mother opened the door, took one look at Clara, and pulled her into a hug. "Clara Knight. Harrison told me you two had reconnected, but I could not quite believe it." They spent the day looking through old photo albums, his mother telling embarrassing stories that made Harrison groan and Clara laugh until she cried. There were pictures of them as children, gap-toothed and grinning, arms around each other. "You two were inseparable that summer," his mother said fondly. "I was so sad when the Knights moved away. Harrison moped around the house for weeks." "Mom," Harrison protested, but Clara was looking at him with such warmth that he could not really mind. On the drive back to Seattle, Clara rested her hand on his knee. "Your mom is wonderful. She really likes you. The feeling is mutual." Clara paused. "Do you want to meet my family?" "My mom and stepdad are coming to visit next month, and my sister is talking about flying up too." "I would love that." Meeting Clara's family was a different experience. Her mother was kind but reserved, clearly protective of her daughter. Her stepfather was friendly enough, asking Harrison questions about his work and his intentions. But it was Clara's younger half-sister, Sophie, who gave him the real test. The 19-year-old college student cornered him in the kitchen while Clara was showing her mother the condo. "So you are the childhood friend turned boyfriend." "That is me. Clara has not been this happy in years. I can see it in how she talks about you, how she smiles." Sophie crossed her arms. "Do not mess this up." "I do not plan to," Harrison said seriously. "Good." Sophie's stern expression melted into a grin. "Because I like you, and I would hate to have to hate you." 6 months into their relationship, Harrison knew he wanted to marry Clara. It was not a sudden realization but a gradual certainty that had been building since the day he saw her in the rain. She was it for him. The one. The person he wanted to build a life with. He started looking at rings, trying to imagine what she would like. Clara was not flashy, but she appreciated beauty and quality. He wanted something that would make her think of him every time she looked at it. His brother Daniel called one evening while Harrison was researching jewelers. "Mom says you are getting serious with Clara Knight." "Very serious." "The Clara Knight, from when we were kids. She used to let me play with you guys even though I was younger." "The same one." Harrison smiled at the memory. "She still has that same kindness. Are you going to marry her? If she will have me, yeah." "That is big, man, but I am happy for you. You deserve this." Harrison found the perfect ring at a small jewelry store in Pike Place Market. A platinum band with a single diamond, elegant and timeless. The jeweler sized it while Harrison paced the shop, already planning how he would propose. But before he could set anything in motion, Clara's world turned upside down. Her mother called on a Tuesday afternoon. Clara was at work, so Harrison was the one who heard the news first. Clara's stepfather had suffered a major heart attack and was in critical condition. Her mother was barely holding it together on the phone, and Harrison promised to get Clara there as soon as possible. He drove to the hospital, parked illegally, and found Clara just finishing her rounds. One look at his face and she knew something was wrong. "What happened?" "We need to go. It is your stepfather." The drive to the airport was a blur. Harrison had called his assistant from the hospital parking lot, and by the time they arrived, Michelle had booked them on the next flight to Portland and arranged for a car on the other end. Clara was silent the whole way, her hand gripping Harrison's like a lifeline. Her stepfather survived, but the recovery was going to be long. Clara took emergency leave from work and stayed in Portland for 3 weeks. Harrison went back and forth, managing his business remotely as much as possible and flying down every few days to be with her. "You do not have to keep doing this," Clara said one night as they sat in the hospital cafeteria. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes. "You have a company to run. The company will be fine. You need me here, Harrison." She set down her terrible coffee. "This is not your responsibility." "Yes, it is, because I love you, and when you love someone you show up." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "You have never said that before." "I love you," Harrison repeated, taking her hands. "I have loved you for months now, and I am not going anywhere." She kissed him right there in the hospital cafeteria, tasting like salt and coffee and relief. Her stepfather recovered slowly but surely. By the time Clara felt comfortable returning to Seattle, spring had arrived. They had been together for nearly a year, and Harrison could not wait any longer. He planned the proposal for a Saturday in May. He told Clara they were going for a drive, just to get out of the city for a while. She agreed easily, happy to have a break from the intensity of the past few months. Harrison drove them to their hometown, the place where their story began. Clara realized where they were going about 20 minutes out, her eyes widening. "Harrison, what are we doing here? You will see." He parked near the old corner store, the one where they used to buy ice cream sandwiches. It was still there, remarkably unchanged. "Want to get some ice cream?" Harrison asked. Clara laughed. "Obviously." They walked in and Harrison bought 2 ice cream sandwiches just like old times. Then he led Clara outside to the curb where they used to sit, and they sat down together, shoulder to shoulder. "This is where I saw you last," Harrison said. 20 years ago, right here. And I never forgot you, Clara. Even after all those years, I never forgot the girl who was my best friend. I never forgot you either. When I saw you in the rain last year, it felt like fate, like the universe giving us a second chance." Harrison set down his ice cream and reached into his pocket. "I do not want to waste it. Clara's hand flew to her mouth as Harrison pulled out the ring box and opened it. Clara Knight, I have loved you since we were kids, and I fell in love with you all over again as an adult. You are my best friend, my partner, my home. His voice was steady despite the emotion coursing through him. Will you marry me? Yes. The word came out choked with tears. Yes, absolutely yes. Harrison slipped the ring onto her finger, and Clara pulled him into a kiss that tasted like chocolate and ice cream and joy. When they finally pulled apart, they were both laughing and crying at the same time. I cannot believe you brought me here, Clara said, looking at the ring on her finger, then back at the corner store. This is perfect. You are perfect. They called their families from that same curb, both their mothers crying happy tears. Sophie screamed so loud Harrison had to hold the phone away from his ear. Daniel immediately started planning the bachelor party. They were married 6 months later in a ceremony overlooking Puget Sound. Clara wore a simple white dress that made her look like something out of a dream. Harrison could barely get through his vows without his voice breaking. I promise to always show up, he said, holding her hands. To choose you every single day. To build a life with you that is full of love and laughter and all the things we dreamed about when we were kids. Clara's vows were equally heartfelt. I promise to be your partner in everything, to celebrate your successes and support you through challenges, to never stop being your best friend, even when we are old and gray. Their mothers cried. Sophie caught the bouquet and immediately tried to give it to a cute groomsman. Daniel's best man speech was equal parts embarrassing and touching. When Harrison and Clara had their first dance, she looked up at him with those hazel eyes and smiled. How did we get so lucky? I have been asking myself that for a year now. Do you think 12-year-old us would believe this, that we would find each other again and fall in love? I think 12-year-old me always knew you were special, Harrison said. I just had to wait for the right time. They bought a house a year later, a beautiful craftsman in Ballard with a big backyard and enough space to grow into. Clara transferred some of her work hours to part-time and started teaching at the university medical school. Harrison continued building his company, but he never let work consume him the way it had before Clara. They had dinner together every night, took vacations, and prioritized their relationship above everything else. 2 years into their marriage, Clara found out she was pregnant. Harrison came home from work to find her sitting in the nursery they had been slowly putting together, holding a positive pregnancy test and crying happy tears. We are having a baby, she said when he dropped to his knees in front of her. Harrison kissed her stomach, his heart so full he thought it might burst. We are having a baby. They decorated the nursery together, painting the walls a soft yellow and assembling furniture side by side like they had when Clara first moved to Seattle. Harrison read parenting books and went to every single doctor appointment. Clara was radiant throughout her pregnancy, and Harrison fell in love with her even more, something he had not thought possible. Their daughter, Emma Rose Reed, was born on a sunny morning in September. She had Clara's hazel eyes and Harrison's dark hair, and from the moment he held her, Harrison knew his entire world had shifted. She is perfect, Clara whispered from the hospital bed, watching Harrison cradle their daughter, just like her mother. They brought Emma home to the house in Ballard, and Harrison took paternity leave to help during those first exhausting, wonderful weeks. They learned together how to soothe her cries, change diapers in record time, and function on very little sleep. Late one night, Harrison was pacing the nursery with Emma while Clara slept. Their daughter had finally drifted off, and he stood at the window, looking out at the backyard where he could already imagine Emma playing when she was older. Your mom and I were best friends when we were kids, he whispered to Emma. Did you know that? We lost touch for 20 years, and then one rainy day we found each other again. And now here you are, the most beautiful thing we have ever created together." Emma made a small sound in her sleep, and Harrison smiled. Clara appeared in the doorway, wrapped in a robe. "I woke up and you were both gone, just having a little chat." Harrison carefully placed Emma in her crib. "Go back to bed, I will be there in a minute. Come now, she is asleep." Clara took his hand and they stood together over the crib, watching their daughter breathe. "We did good," Harrison said softly. "We did amazing." They walked back to their bedroom hand in hand, and as Harrison climbed into bed next to his wife, he thought about the long, winding path that had brought them here. The childhood friendship that never quite faded, the chance encounter in the rain, the slow building of something new and beautiful. The proposal on that same curb where they said goodbye all those years ago. The wedding, the house, and now this tiny person who was the best parts of both of them. On weekends, Harrison's mother would visit from their hometown, and Clara's family would drive up from Portland. They would gather in the backyard. Emma passed from loving arms to loving arms, and Harrison would look around at this life they had built and feel nothing but gratitude. "What are you thinking about?" Clara asked him one Sunday afternoon. They were sitting on the back porch while Emma napped, watching the clouds drift by. "Just that I am the luckiest person alive." "That is my line," Clara said, leaning her head on his shoulder. "We can share it." Years passed in a blur of happiness. Emma grew into a curious, energetic toddler, and then a bright little girl who loved books and asking questions. Harrison scaled back his involvement in the company even more, promoting key team members and transitioning into a chairman role that gave him flexibility. Clara continued teaching and seeing patients part-time, finding the balance between motherhood and the career she loved. They had a son 3 years after Emma. Jack Henry Reid came into the world loudly announcing his presence, and he kept that same energy throughout his childhood. Where Emma was thoughtful and cautious, Jack was impulsive and adventurous. "He reminds me of you," Clara said one evening, watching 5-year-old Jack attempt to climb a tree in the backyard. "I was never that brave," Harrison protested. "Yes, you were, you just forgot." Clara smiled. "I remember you climbing that huge oak tree behind the school. You got stuck halfway up and I had to talk you through getting down. I remember that differently. I think I made it down just fine. Whatever you need to tell yourself, dear." They raised their children in that house in Ballard, filling it with love and laughter and the kind of memories that would last lifetimes. Harrison taught Emma to ride a bike and Jack to throw a baseball. Clara read to them every night, her voice weaving stories that transported them to other worlds. On their 10th wedding anniversary, Harrison and Clara went back to their hometown. They stood in front of that corner store which had finally closed and been converted into something else, but the curb was still there. "Can you believe it has been 10 years?" Clara asked, her hand in his. "Best 10 years of my life. Better than when we were kids and thought ice cream sandwiches were the height of luxury. Even better than that." Harrison pulled her close. "Thank you for giving me this life. Thank you for seeing me in the rain that day, for stopping instead of walking by." "I could never have walked by you, Clara. Not then, not ever." They kissed on that curb, middle-aged now, but still feeling like the kids they used to be. When they drove back to Seattle that evening, it was to a house full of family. Harrison's mother was watching the kids along with Clara's parents, and they all had dinner together, 3 generations around one table. Emma, now 9 years old and wise beyond her years, looked between her parents. "Mom, Dad, how did you meet?" Harrison and Clara exchanged glances, and Clara started the story. "Well, we were best friends when we were about your age. We lived in the same neighborhood and spent every summer together." And then Grandma and Grandpa Knight moved away, Harrison continued. And we did not see each other for a very long time. 20 years, Clara added. That is forever, Jack exclaimed. It felt like it, Harrison agreed. But then one day I was walking to my car in Seattle and I saw your mom standing in the rain. And your dad stopped to help me, even though he probably had important places to be, Clara said, reaching for Harrison's hand across the table. There was nowhere more important than right there, Harrison said firmly. Emma was enthralled. And then you fell in love. And then we fell in love, Clara confirmed. Sometimes the best things in life are worth waiting for. Your dad and I had to wait 20 years, but it was worth every single day. Harrison looked around the table at his family, at the life he and Clara had created together, and silently agreed. Every moment, every challenge, every twist of fate that had led him to that rainy street corner where he saw Clara again had been worth it. Their story was not the conventional romance of strangers meeting and falling head over heels. It was something deeper, richer. It was two people who knew each other at their core, who had been pulled apart by circumstance and brought back together by chance. It was a friendship that evolved into love so naturally that by the time they realized what was happening, they were already halfway gone. As the evening wound down and the kids were put to bed, Harrison and Clara stood in their kitchen, cleaning up while their mothers chatted in the living room. Happy? Clara asked, handing him a dish to dry. Incredibly. Harrison set down the towel and pulled her into his arms. I love our life. I love it too. Clara rested her head against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. And I love you, still my best friend after all these years. Always, Harrison promised. Best friends, partners forever. And in that moment, standing in their kitchen with their children asleep upstairs and their families nearby, Harrison Reed knew that reconnecting with Clara Knight had been the best thing that ever happened to him. She was not just his childhood best friend who became his wife. She was his everything, and he would spend the rest of his life grateful for that rainy day when their paths crossed again.